This is my first Ziigaat review, but not my first experience with the brand. Previously, I haven't really enjoyed any other Ziigaat models except for the very lush and smooth Odyssey. The new Horizon has subverted all my expectations with its unusual tri-bridge configuration of a single dynamic for bass, 2 BAs for mid-range, and 2 planars for treble. Let's take a closer look. The Horizon has a fairly smoothed out shape, lacking any of the extreme divots or wings, but ergonomics aren't an issue since the new jelly-like tips provide extra grip in my holes. They have hollow resin shells that are decorated with a glitter-based motif, with what appears to be a white snowy mountain and a blue lake under a starry sky. While I'm sure it's also up to the individual to interpret it, this is what comes to my mind with the name Horizon. Accessories are a bit hit or miss. The jelly tips are great, but there are only 2 sets provided and a single size of foam tips too. The case is a big improvement over the usual fare if you really care about storage space, but since it's about twice the size of a normal case, it's not really perfect unless you plan to stuff in a second set of indie monitors into the other half, or you really care about preserving the glossy IEM shells. It does do a good job of keeping the shells separated and prevents scratching against the metal cable hardware. The insert is also removable for increased storage space. The cable's quite good, it's very flexible, but also has a little memory and doesn't fall perfectly straight. At this price, I would also expect a slightly thicker cable, but at least it comes with interchangeable plugs, single-ended 3.5mm and balanced 4.4mm. The Horizon sounds great. It's an easy recommendation, just get it. The star of the show is the mid-range, which has among the best clarity and timbre I've heard at almost any price. Vocals and instruments have an extremely impressive realism that blends seamlessly with the bass, that has no artificial mid-bass emphasis, and is capped off perfectly by the 2 planar drivers that offer some of the sweetest, most polite yet utterly detailed and technical treble flavors. With the new trend of double dynamic drivers currently going around, I'm very impressed that they were able to get this much deep, detailed and textured bass with only 1 dynamic driver. The downside is that these are a little less thunderous than Harman, but even a tiny 1 or 2 decibel bass shelf can easily fix this to your taste. The mid-range seems to only have the slightest coloration that emphasizes the upper mid-range around 4 to 5 kHz. It's not as intrusive or grating as actual pinna gain and gives just the right amount of liveliness and higher contrast that makes instrument sounds come alive. If you're the kind of treble head that needs 1,000 needles piercing your ears, these aren't it. But if you enjoy the kind of treble that is mostly flatter throughout the 8 to 12 kHz range with a boost in the upper treble, these give a great sense of smoothness with a dose of air and an increased sense of space. The soundstage is well above average, but imaging accuracy is quite poor, with sounds in 3D games all sort of coming from the same area in the middle of your head, like a blob of sound that leans to the side where the sound is coming from. The isolation is only a bit above average, but the resistance to wind noise is above average. One area I feel is of only minor concern is the power requirements. Like most indie monitors, straight out of the smartphone, you will easily reach ear-bleeding volume, but somehow I feel like the Horizon does actually open up a little when you feed it more power. It's not as though it will sound bad without special amping, but in this case I think it helps a little, maybe perhaps due to the planar drivers. Now for some comparisons. The Kiwi Ears Astral. With what I currently have at hand, I think this is the closest comparison. It has a similarly large soundstage, but has ultimately a more U-shaped tuning and a slightly more reined-in mid-range that is superior for heavy metal and electronic music, but less impressive for vocals and acoustic instruments. It's a very tight race, and these 2 indie monitors complement each other very well. Next, the Tantgym Fola. What's crazy about this comparison is that the Horizon, without any equalization, sounds very similar to the Fola after I spent time EQing it in the Tantgym Companion app a couple of weeks ago for my review. So clearly the Horizon almost perfectly matches my ideal in-ear monitor frequency response. The resolution and timbre are both fabulous, but the Horizon clearly edges out in the lead for soundstage size and sense of air and space, but is beaten incrementally for pure detail, and quite soundly beaten for imaging accuracy. The level of fidelity here is extremely high. It's one of those rare moments where I feel like I'm not missing anything in the recording, and it's not adding any strange flavors. Top that with a healthy dose of soundstage, and it's just an effortlessly easy recommendation. From the very first to the latest song, I have not once felt that there was anything wrong with the sound. Sure, the stage could be bigger, the imaging could be more accurate, the transparency could also be higher, the cable a little more price appropriate, and the ergonomics more snug, but not once did I feel like something was outright wrong or broken. These are an absolute banger, and the only thing that might stop you from getting one is the asking price of €290. That's it for now. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.